Live BB Pro is the title like it is. Today guys, we're gonna go over a tutorial on the difference between hinging and squatting. Some of you guys are getting mixed up. Some of you guys are hinging when you're squatting, and some of you guys are squatting when you're supposed to be hinging. When you deadlift, you're hinging. When you're squatting, you're squatting. So let's just go over the basics right now, just from proper body positioning or posture. So I'm gonna get Erica to turn to the side. Well, you guys know Erica. Erica's been in a lot of my videos. She's a high-level gymnast, competing this year in women's fitness. So from the start, I'm gonna get her to be in a ready position in a squat position. So squat, bar, low bar, good. So this position where she is, from her waist to her base to her neck, right to her head. This position doesn't change regardless if you are hinging or you're squatting, if you're deadlifting or you're squatting. So we'll get her to put this bar in front like you're doing a front rack. Her posture doesn't change, and then go into ready position if you're deadlifting, just the top of the deadlift. So if you look from head to toe, activation from her lats, erectors, glutes, all the way down from here to here should not change. So when she's squatting or deadlifting, this should not change the orientation at all. The main difference between squatting and hinging is you're not getting much knee flexion or hip flexion when you're hinging. When you're squatting, you're getting a lot more knee flexion and hip flexion. So when she squats, we're getting a lot of knee flexion and hip flexion, right? When she's deadlifting, you're getting not much hip hinging, hip flexion, but not much at all knee flexion, right? Now we're gonna give her an actual bar to go over the deadlift and squat so you can see it with a little bit of a load. Sometimes it's hard to actually go over some of the movements when you're used to using no weight at all. Those people who have a little more muscle should probably use a little bit of a load to get into their position. So we're gonna go over just a deadlift just to start. So front view setting up, I did the trick before, stand back. I just want you to naturally just jump in the air. Good. Where her feet land is very natural to where her hips are aligned when she's jumping. That's a very easy way to tell how to hinge properly in a natural position. Now she's gonna walk up to the bar, walk right to the bar, good. The bar is gonna be either right on her shins or at the top part of her shoelace, right here. Now when she's going to sit back to grab the bar, remember from the front, we wanna have toes about, they can be straight or 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. We want to have her feet 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or straight, depending on how your hips naturally align. Then we're going to externally rotate the hips, so show her external rotation. And that's just to make sure that our knees stay aligned with her toes. So don't externally rotate, just let them normally. There you go. So naturally, her knees line inside of her toes. When we squat or deadlift or whatever we're doing, if we don't externally rotate, we'll get this kind of knee knocking kind of business there. We don't want that at all. So the purpose of externally rotating the hips is to align the knees with the toes. That's it. Don't continue to go out and out and out until your legs are basically going over the sides of your feet. A good way to kind of get an idea of how to do this, pretend you have a piece of paper on the ground and you're trying to rip it with your feet. That's going to give you that initial external rotation. Once your knees are aligned with your toes, you're good. Don't move anywhere. Now from here, we're going to make sure that our core is engaged always right away. Nice posture from the head up. Now we're going to push our hands down the floor without bending at the hips so we can engage our lats. Now from there, we're going to hinge. Now we're going to get a better view from the side, but from here we're going to hinge back. You're not going to see much knee flexion at all. I'm gonna go back, sit down, hands naturally to the side, and you see the bar didn't move that much. Now from there, we're gonna engage our core, engage our lats. We're gonna push from the floor, and we're gonna stand straight up. And then back down the exact same way you came up. Good. So let's go through the points one more time from the side so you can see a better view of her hinging from the side. So again, we're gonna walk up to the bar. We wanna have our feet about 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock like before, externally rotate the hips. You can see a nice curvature in the back. Your natural curvature in your lumbar spine is not gonna change whatsoever. It should not change. Now from there, we're gonna engage our lats by pushing the hands to the ground. You can see right away, she's got a nice, perfect alignment from here. Now she's gonna hinge her hips back with not much knee flexion at all and grab the bar. Now while she has that bar nice and tight, now the butt seems pretty high. We want to make sure we kind of keep this angle from here to make sure that our shoulders are always over our butt. We don't want our butt to be higher than our shoulders. Go higher than the shoulders. We don't want this. We want to change that angle to hit it down. There you go. Now from there, we're already almost lifting up. Her glutes are engaged, nice and tight. Now before we go up, we want to make sure that we have lat activation by shoulder depression. We want to pull those arms back. Now from there, standing straight up, push to the ground, and stand up and there. Now we're going to do 10 reps and show you the difference, or show you the consistency of the bar pathway. So go back down. So the bar pathway is basically gravity, making sure that this bar stays in that line straight up and down and doesn't move back and forth. If the bar goes outside, so do a bad deadlift, where the bar comes away from your body. The bar comes away from your body, it comes up, and then has to come back to her body. You're gonna put a lot of pressure on your lower back. You wanna make sure that this bar stays straight up and down, and we are maneuvering our body around the bar so we can have a perfect bar pathway, right? So let's do it again. Walk up to the bar. There you go, good. So rotate, shoulders down, hinge, grab the bar, engage your core, lats up, and there you go. And let's do about 5 reps and give you an idea of the bar pathway. Go ahead. Good. Good. Do 2 more. 1, 2. Good. And down. There is what the difference of a hinge is. Now we're gonna go over a squat. So a couple things we can do. For those who have issues squatting, you don't have to always load your spine. You can do something like a goblet squat. Now we don't have a kettlebell, you can use a dumbbell for a goblet squat. So dumbbell goblet squats. Now from the front, same thing again. Externally rotate, toes are gonna be 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Now they might change a bit depending on how mobile you are. If you're not that mobile in the hips, you might have to go a little bit wider. If you have good mobile hips, you don't have to go wide at all. Naturally, you're good right here. But if you have to change, adjust yourself for your hips. There you go. Now, toes are gonna be basically the same. We don't wanna go too far out, so don't go, show me too far out. So we don't want this because we're not doing a sumo deadlift. And the further out your toes are, so give me toes, the further out your toes are, the harder it will be to externally rotate the hips because your legs are already out in this position. So from here, we're gonna externally rotate the hips. Toes 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And we're gonna keep this bell above the body, and she's gonna kind of turn her hands like this, a little bit more like this way, there you go. So that bell naturally pushes her elbows down, creating that shoulder depression. Now from there, we wanna externally rotate the hips, and then we're gonna squat down and stop there. Good, now she's very mobile, she's a gymnast. How low can you go? You don't have to go as low as her. She can go right to about 90 degrees where your hips are, or your glutes are at its tightest. Now come back up. Good. Let's hit it from the side and show you guys a better angle. From the side. Sweet, nice. All right, you want to rest for a bit? Is that too heavy? No. Okay, cool. It's not too heavy. Okay, so from the side so you get a better idea, when we externally rotate at the hips, external rotation, its job is to turn this leg like this. So if I'm trying to walk to the right, my glute has to do this to help me move this way. When we're standing in a static position, externally rotating the hips is turning this part of our glute on right away. So when we actually start to squat, we get a lot more activation and help from here. Now remember, when we're squatting, we're getting a lot more knee and hip flexion when we're going down. So she's gonna squat. Now right away, stop right there, good. Now here's where she is. We have a great proper shin angle, basically knee, toe, knee, and your chin would be here, but her chin's being replaced by the weight. Your center of mass sits right in this position. She can stay there for hours. I'm not gonna let her sit there for hours. I'll let her come right back up. Good. Now again, when we're squatting or hinging, we are always gripping with the toes, and we're always pushing through this part of our foot here. The entire foot is being used, not just your heels, not just your toes, okay? So we're gonna get her to do it again. Toes where they're supposed to be, external rotation of the hips, tight core. Her lats are activated because the weight is actually naturally pulling the weight down, and then she's gonna go and squat slow, and then pushing right up. Good. Now do it a little bit slower on the way down. I want you to pause there, is where she needs to go, is as far as you guys need to go. Now she can go lower, go a little lower. Her back doesn't move much at all. Come back up. Because she's a gymnast and because she has great flexibility and mobility, she can go as low as she can without having that interior pelvic tilt at the bottom. The lower I go, my butt will eventually start to do this, the lower I go, even though I can keep myself up. So for her, and most people who do have the ability to go lower, you can go low as long as we keep the load and the glutes active when we're actually moving. Now let's do it again from the back. Let me show you the angle from the back so you can see what her back looks like. So with the hips, legs where we're supposed to be. We're gonna let the weight of the dumbbell pull her lats down, her elbows down. She's up, nice curvature in her back, and she's gonna squat slow. Stop, there you go. Now we don't want any kind of her heels coming off the ground, so we're gonna push her hips back a bit. There you go, butt's gonna come a bit, and we'll see those heels stay on the ground. From there, you're gonna stand right up. Good. Now, for some of you guys who don't have the ability to get down all the way to the floor, and you're like, why do my heels keep coming off the ground? Well, there's the ankle flexibility issue, ankle mobility, dorsal flexion. Dorsal flexion or ankle mobility is when there's a lot of flexion in the knee, especially when squatting, not when you're actually doing a deadlift. You'll get a lot more ankle flexion, knee flexion, and hip flexion when you're squatting. So when she's squatting down, if your ankles aren't mobile when she goes down, go down, those heels will come off the ground a tiny little bit. We want to push the hips back a bit, put weight on there, externally rotate the hips from there, chest up from there, and stand right up. Now, if you don't and cannot do that properly for a bit right now, you can go buy a pair of like lifting shoes that give you a little bit of like heel elevation. That's basically going to help lengthen your tibia length, your shin length. So what determines most of the difference between squatting and hinging is your tibia or shin. When you're squatting, is going to move a lot. So squat, you see that angle go from here to here. Now stand back up. When you're deadlifting, there you go. The biggest difference between squatting and hinging is when you're hinging, you're not going to get much knee flexion and not as much hip flexion. When you're squatting, you're going to get a lot of knee flexion and you're going to get a lot of hip flexion. A couple things to make sure you take away from this when you actually do it is there's no difference in any of the movements from the waist up. You shouldn't change the orientation of your natural curvature in your lumbar spine. So just go into a regular position if you're just, stand up straight, nice and tall, strong from there. This position should not change. Even though when you're squatting, it's a little bit more like this, a little bent this way, this should not change. Meaning, do a full squat, roll your back. We shouldn't have this at the bottom. When she's deadlifting, the same thing. So when you squat, go into a squat position.
A good one?
Yep. There you go. Her back, nice natural curvature in her spine, neutral spine all the way down. Set. When she goes to set, you will see not much flexion from her knees, because if you see flexion from her knees, you end up pushing the bar away. So sit down. There you go. Bar did not move at all. She gets in position, locks those hands, nice tight lats, tight legs, tight glutes, everything, and pushing from the ground up. Continue. Good. And watch her head too. We have a nice neutral spine, so you don't want to have the neck wrenching up like this. And you don't want to tuck your chin too much either. You want a nice neutral spine from the top to bottom. Good. Now I want you to squat. All right, now we're gonna squat from a barbell position. From here, down, same thing, go slow. Good. Same thing, not much at all difference in between her torso when she's squatting or hinging. This in my face the whole time. Good, and you can put it down. And that is it, guys, for a tutorial on the difference between hinging and squatting. I hope you guys can take these lessons, put them to use, and try it next time you deadlift or you squat. Anyway, if you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. For coaching, johnashreeve.com. Make sure you want to get in the best shape of your life for the rest of your life. And follow me on Instagram at _JohnAshreeve_, and follow Erica on Instagram at, what is it?
Your Fit Girl.
At YourFitGirl on Instagram. And actually follow us at our gym at Impact Fitness 56. And you guys know the deal. Iron sharpens iron. Progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing. Peace.